What's up, everybody? I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. So you guys know on this channel, I like to bring people on that, have been at the bottom and have made it out. So to show people there is hope, I'm going to keep doing that. In today's episode, it's a little bit different. This guy didn't do a lot of time in prison or anything, but he has like a program, and he's going to talk about it today on this episode, and we're going to see what it's all about. So if you're new and you're tuning in, man, I cover prison, jail, recovery, anything to do, drug addiction. So if you're into that kind of stuff, or you know somebody that is, man, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn those post notifications on. So, man, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself to the people watching? Just tell them your name and where you're from.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks again for having me on here. My name's Sean Steiner. I go by the Wisco Kid, and I'm 32 years old and an ex-addict alcoholic. I'm from originally from Wisconsin. I live down in Phoenix, but growing up, I had older brothers, so two older brothers. I lived in a small town just outside of Madison, Wisconsin, and it was one of those typical Midwestern grow-ups, besides the fact that my parents divorced at a young age. I was one of those kids, though. I was the youngest, not only the youngest, but I was the smallest in my family. So as you could imagine, living with two older brothers, I got picked on quite a bit.
Yeah, quick. You grew up quick.
Yeah. And, it was not only the verbal, but, there's definitely physical ass whoopings. But, growing up, I kind of had to deal with that. And I always wanted to fit in with, the other kids in the neighborhood, not only with my brothers, but, kids around the neighborhood. And so, like I said, there was a lot of times where I didn't really stick up for myself. I was dealing with a lot of verbal abuse, I guess you could say, more or less. And so my point is that I always tried fitting in. I tried to do whatever it was. And that's when, at 13, I drank for the first time because my brother's like, oh, let's drink for your birthday. And I'm like, I was like one of those, well, what if mom finds out? What if the parents find out? Worried about all that. And he's like, they're not going to find out. Don't worry. And so to fit in, to, be one of the cool kids, I guess you could say, I, drank on my 13th birthday, and it kind of just escalated from there. Went to marijuana not too far after that.
What do you think would have stopped you from making the decision to keep drinking and smoking weed? Like, do you think if you went to counseling, because obviously like what your brothers did, it kind of like created like an insecurity within you, not knowing like how to react to it like they did. So do you feel like that could have been stopped at that age before you started drinking?
Honestly, no, only because, my brothers were, one of them was a football star, one of them was good in academics. So in some type of way, I guess subconsciously, I was thinking, oh, I need to be noticed on some level. And so I think getting into trouble, doing, bad things, whatever, getting kicked out of school, at one point getting kicked out of my mom's house, is that I was getting the attention on me. I was the young one. So it's like I had to, I purposely labeled myself the black sheep just to stand out in my family.
Yeah, I was the black sheep too, bro. So it's all good. You're in the right pasture.
Hey, well, dude, usually the black sheep are usually the most beautiful people there is out there.
Yeah, thanks, bro. So when did drinking and smoking weed, like, when did you realize that was a problem?
It took till I was about, 23, 24 years old, because like it was a natural thing up in Wisconsin, is like we drank. That was part of the culture up there, is that, hey, Badger Saturday, let's drink from 7 a.m. till wee hours of the next day. Let's, we had a rough day at work. Okay, let's go drink. Oh, we had a good day at work. Let's go drink. It was kind of normalized up where I'm from. It was when I got into the drugs is when really people started to notice the changes in me. And that started back in high school by popping and snorting Vicodin and cocaine, trying for the first time. And it eventually led me, like I was saying earlier, is that my mom kicked me out of the house because she couldn't handle me. I wasn't listening to her. And so I was living out at a friend's house for a couple months and missing school all the time. Was definitely on the track to not finishing high school with my class, which then my senior year, my mom sent me away to a wilderness therapy program out in Utah. Everything you can imagine, living in tents with a tarp, strings attached to trees. So that was your tent. You didn't have an actual like physical tent, laying on a foam pad like this thick on the hard rocks, all that stuff, learning how to make fires and all sorts of things you would probably learn like in like Boy Scouts or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. And then from there, they sent me right to boarding school, which I had to put up or shut up. And so I was about at that point into my senior year, God, at least 7 to 8 credits behind. So typically your senior year is like really easy. You got pretty much all your credits that you need to graduate. Well, then I had to kind of make up 7 to 8 credits in like 6 months. So I could be back in time for my graduation back in Wisconsin. You know, but at that point, it's like I still wasn't done. I was like, I'm just doing this because I have no legal.
Right. You got no choice.
I had no choice. Exactly. I was under the age of 18. So whatever they signed me up to, I kind of had to play by the rules at that point.
When did you realize, like, what was the turning point where you were like, I want to stop now? Like, obviously something painful had to have happened for you to get to that point. So what happened?
Well, how it really snowballed was my brother dying. I was 18 years old, just graduated high school, a few months out. And that's kind of where my progression into drug abuse went. I used his death as an excuse to get fucked up all the time because we don't know what tomorrow brings. So why not enjoy the time now in my head? It was about until 25, prior to my mom finding like my stash of drugs. I was sick of that life. I was sad internally. I just wanted to die. I was hoping that I wouldn't wake up, that I would overdose, that would be the end of it. So it got to that point where it's like I'm not doing anything productive. I'm living at my mom's house. And so the internal kicking my own ass really was that turning point. And then my mom finding the drugs and them doing pretty much an intervention on me. I was like, okay, thank God. Oh, it was like a ton of weight lifted off my shoulders, and I was ready to be done with that life.
I feel you on that, bro. So there's I feel like there's different levels of addicts. You know what I mean? There's people that, just drank and their mom threatened to take away their Beamer, so they stopped drinking. And then there's people that once they start, they can't stop, and they either have to go to jail, prison, or they die. So where do you think you fell on that description of level of addict? What was your habit like?
I had to be high every day. It didn't matter if it was heroin. It didn't matter if it was uppers or alcohol or weed. I had to be on something every single day. In that regards, it wasn't to the point of, I was more low key, I guess you could say, not to get to the point of going to jail or prison. However, I was selling drugs. I got an OWI at the age of 18, which is operating while intoxicated, in my driveway nonetheless. So it was, I guess, in between, more or less, but I had to always be high, but not enough where I was doing too much reckless stuff. So I guess.
So you didn't go through the what ifs yet. You know what I mean? Because eventually when you go down that road, everybody ends up at one of those. You know what I mean? Now, there's people watching that have felt exactly like you did internally, and that still wasn't enough for them to stop. So, or they want to stop, but they don't know how to stop. How did you get to the point where you woke up and you were just like, I like my life not high? So, and then how did you get to that point?
It got to the point where I just couldn't keep living this way. And I was just like high on heroin all the time. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do it today. But then half hour later, I'm texting my dealer, hey, can I get some? And before you know it, more drugs up my nose, and I'm just out of my mind. I had all these big plans in my head, and I kept pushing them back because, oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll start Monday. I'll do this. And so I was just not progressing at all. And so it got to the point where not only did everybody know, then I could finally throw up the white flag, but I was done by that point anyway. So it was just like, they knew. So now I can go get help, because I always was worried about the stigma. Oh, well, he's a heroin addict, so, totally brush him under the rug and totally forget about him. So that's where I was afraid to really reach out, go to a family dinner, oh yeah, things are great. By the way, I'm addicted to heroin. Yeah.
Do you feel like today that you still deal with the stigma of you being an addict?
I don't give a shit. people think of me. I'm over here moving mountains. I'm helping people not only in addiction as a lead sobriety coach of Beyond Sober. Not only that, but I went back to school, got my bachelor's degree, started my own business, and a multitude of other things like buying my first home, getting married to a beautiful woman that accepted me for my past and still move forward with me. And so I don't really care what other people think at this point. It's like I'm winning. I've done what you guys have done in a shorter amount of time, and so for them to judge me now, it's like, are you judging me for all the accomplishments I have, or are you going to judge me for my past? Because quite frankly, I'm looking through my windshield. I'm not looking through my rearview mirror to drive.
Yeah, if you do, you never get to where you're going.
Yeah, or you'll crash and burn or whatever.
So, I mean, obviously then I'm taking it you're in recovery and you obviously like work some kind of program to where you're not getting high anymore, right?
Correct. So just shy of 6 years. So on October 2nd will be my 6 years of sobriety.
Congrats.
I thank you. I appreciate that. But when I first got sober, I went to a treatment facility up in Prescott, Arizona. It was a 6-month program. I actually got kicked out early. Statistically, they say like if guys leave treatment early, they're going to go back out and use. Well,
or if they even complete it, they're going to go back out and use. That's a bad statistic.
Right. And the thing with that is I didn't like that. They're basically setting you up for failure. They are putting something in your subconscious mind saying like, you need us or else. You don't do this or else. And I didn't like that. I had started growing with like law of attraction, Tony Robbins stuff. And so that mindset was far from me. And so I got kicked out and my mom was worried, but I did finish because there's like a halfway house and then there's the treatment side of it where you're dealing with a therapist, whatever. So I finished that because I was like, well, I want to start off on a good note in my sobriety. So I'll at least finish that. With that, I was homeless. I was homeless at that point. Didn't have anywhere to live. I was living out of my car, sleeping couch to couch, wherever I could. Eventually, my sponsor at the time, when I was working in an AA program, let me stay with him for a little bit. But like I said, I didn't resonate with AA.
Why don't you think you resonated with it?
In my eyes, it was like high school. It was like high school drama bullshit. Oh, we're the cool kids over here. And if you didn't resonate with them, then you're just on the out. They're all full of shit. We'll help the next alcoholic, that's struggling. But when it came time to pay the piper and like help me out, and I was like, hey, I will take a piss test to show you that I'm not using. They still wouldn't help me. I kind of saw them for face value at that point. I saw them for not only that, but they're labeling themselves by something that we don't do anymore. Like I'm not out using, I'm not doing the same destructive habits that I once was doing. So I didn't, like I said, that's a multitude of different reasons why I didn't really resonate with the AA community, NEA community. Again, that limiting belief, like, oh, if you don't call your sponsor, if you don't do the steps, you're going to go back out. And it's like, no, bullshit. If you want to stop, sure, at first, it's like you have that physical, you have that mental addiction still. But after a while, then it becomes a choice. You can either go back to what's comfortable or, hey, let's continue to try something that has been working, something that, is showing progress instead of going back out and using.
With that being said, what I took from that is you said you have a choice, but it sounds more like you're saying it like you have a choice to do what you got to do to stay clean, or you have the choice to go get fucked up. Do you think that if an addict works this whatever program, like I don't care what people work, you know what I mean? If you're sober and you're not out robbing, stealing, killing, doing all that crazy shit, then whatever, it's individual for me. I think that's how it is, but that's just my opinion. Do you think that an addict though, like, do you think I could come to your house right now and drop an 8-ball in front of you and be like, bro, let's do some lines? And do you feel like you have a choice at that point?
Fun fact. So one day there was a bag of Coke outside my front door and I walked right over it. Yeah, no, I don't know how it got there.
The devil.
I kind of lived I kind of live like right next to a grocery store. So there's a lot of homeless people, whatever, that kind of walk around. So who knows? And it was sitting there. I'm like, I looked at it and I just walked over and went to work. No problem. Like, I have alcohol literally right below me because my wife drinks in a healthy manner. She has a healthy relationship with alcohol. And so I have access to this. I live in a hub in Phoenix where I could go find drugs if I wanted to. But to your point, I would either walk away or throw it away, or I'd probably just say, hey, you got to take that somewhere else, bro. Because
I feel like sometimes there's addicts, man, that like you, I feel like with this is your story and you kind of nipped it in the butt before it got too bad. And I think what happens, man, is most people don't do that. Addicts got to run their head into the fucking wall a couple times before they get it. And I feel like that they go and they have all that shit happen to them. And then by that happening, sometimes to certain people, depending on your personality, they become comfortable with the consequences. Therefore, getting high and drinking and facing those consequences no longer bother them because now they've already done that and they know what to expect. Do you feel like that would have happened to you, or do you feel like you would have been able to like get out of that mentality?
Well, the thing was, I had to move 2,000 miles away to get sober. So probably staying in my old hometown at that point, I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't able to, because I know one tough day, I'd have been gone out the next day. However, doing the work that I have been doing now and realizing that you got to continue to work on your mind, you got to work on your mindset, you got to work on your spirituality and continue to grow as a person and not live in your past. If something were to hit me hard, I've had a few bumps along the way, and it shows that, hey, I want to face this head on. Let's do this, because going back to using or drinking is just going to make things significantly worse. And it's only going to hinder my growth. It's not going to help me move in the direction that I want to. And that's helping others in recovery.
What is the direction you're moving in? Like, I see Sober Coach. I'm sure people are wondering, you don't go to meetings. I'm taking an AA or whatever. So how do you make it, man? What's the program?
So this is Beyond Sober. I'm the lead sobriety coach with them. And I'm also developing my own master platform in which information that I use with my clients one-on-one, I have put into the program along with a bunch of other information. But it's the use of NLP training, which is neuro-linguistic programming. What you say, how you feel, what you think about, what you put your energy towards will bring into fruition in your life, or law of attraction. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not have, but we use neuro-linguistic programming. So training your mind to look at the positives instead of looking at the negatives, and continuing to move forward, progress. And every win's a win. And there's no fucking up. There's no failure. It's either you're learning or you're winning, or both. So, hey, you went back out. Okay, so let's break it down. Why is it that you went back out? Were you bored? Well, I hate to say it, you're a born fucking person. If, something hits you hard, well, then you weren't prepared. You know what I mean? And trying to see what your current situation is and seeing the possible outcomes, not living in them, but just preparing yourself is key as well. And to know that everything happens for you, not to you. Getting in that mindset changes a lot of people's perspective on things. So it's not like, oh, poor me, the cops are always fucking after me. Well, bro, you're out here breaking the law. You're doing shisty shit. Of course they're going to be after you. Yeah, and getting out that. Exactly, 100%. And that the universe is trying to teach you something that you're supposed to learn this time around, that you didn't learn in your last life. A variation of that, and accepting your past is your past. Don't live there. There's no point. Why would you want to go continue to see a bad movie? If you saw a bad movie, why would you go spend another 2 hours of your life to go see that movie again? Same goes for your past. It's like, it's there, yeah, but learn from it.
Like, so you're basically saying, like, if you make a mistake, it's all right, but let's learn from it and move forward.
Right. And, AA has been the pillar of recovery, or for everyone, like, okay, well, if I have a problem, I'm going to go to AA. And so with that, it's like, oh, well, then I have to restart my time. And then they beat the shit out of themselves saying like, oh, I fucked up, I failed. It's like, no, you just learned a lesson. Why do you have to throw all that progress away? You went 30 days without using, you went whatever, however long, without putting poison in your body. Why can't you commend yourself for that win? Sure, you had to go have a drink, or sure, you had to go use, but let's get back on track. Let's not live there. It's like the 5-step rule in golf. You hit a bad shot, you get 5 steps, then you're over it. Let's go to the next shot.
Yeah.
And not to dwell in that, because that's where a lot of people beat themselves up, because we've all made mistakes. We've all had our bumps and hiccups along the way. Why not learn from that, continue to move forward, and continue to become a better version of ourselves?
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of your program, man, because I've seen people, a lot of people don't go back to AA after they relapse because they're afraid of the judgment, because that goes on in there, you know what I mean? And I'm a big believer on it's just different for everybody, man. I don't think there's one perfect way to not get high or not drink or whatever your problem is. Like, I feel like each person has their own shit that they need to go through, and sometimes one program isn't for them, so they got to go look somewhere else. And it sounds like you're trying to make your mark on, you being the place to go if that happens. So how do the people find you, man, if they're interested in some of your programming? Do you have any social media you want to give a shout out?
Yeah, Wisco Kid 89 is my TikTok account. I'm also on Instagram, Wisco Kid 89, and then I'm also on Facebook under Sean Steiner. In my link in the TikTok has my website, which is thewiscokid.com. That's THE.
You want to send me the links to all this when I post this video? I'll go ahead and drop it in the description so they can go ahead and find it.
Most
but
definitely.
I appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing your programming and everything that you learned through your struggles, man. And hopefully somebody watching this, is interested and wants to check you out, and you can kind of work with them and help them. So I appreciate you coming on, man. If you're new, appreciate it, bro. If you're new and you're tuning in, man, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn your post notifications on, so every time I drop an episode, you can hear it first. And with that is DOC TV, and we're out.